Let me first get this out the way, and like I always do, God is good all the time. Once again, let me repeat that. God is good all the time. Now, Republicans, it's time for us to get focused. And the best way for Merle Rutledge to get focused is also to think about some of the good stories in the country that I'm so proud that we have, and lets us know that the devil doesn't win. Let me tell you a story. The story is about two neighbors. One being black, the other one being white. The one being black had a family, had a daughter that they was taking care of right next door to this neighbor who they didn't know that well, who had a Confederate flag, a United States of America flag, owned a bunch of guns, and liked to be left alone. Now, during this time frame, these neighbors never really spoke to each other. They stayed on their side of the property as well as the other person stayed on his side. Now, one day, the black family came home with a daughter right out the hospital and more. These two neighbors never talked. So, as the daughter grew older, the other neighbor on the other side would pay attention to what the other family was doing, just like they would the other side. And each time frame families came up to visit each other, they'll ask about the other side and vice versa. And the white neighbor said he just loves to be left alone and they don't bother him. And the black side of the family said he doesn't like to be bothered, he likes to be left alone. We like this arrangement. We've been in this arrangement for decades. So as the daughter gets older, she has a boyfriend. The boyfriend decided one day he was going to pull up to the driveway with the neighbor's daughter in the car. A screaming match ensued. Then her boyfriend gets out the car and starts dragging the girl out the car and begins to punch her. So the neighbor, the white neighbor who had never spoke to this family, no more than possibly to say hi and bye, comes out the house, has the Confederate flag, the United States of America flag, and he's a clear rebel and country boy, and that's exactly how he likes to keep it. So he comes out the house and sees what's going on. He goes back into his house, gets his 12 gauge, comes back out the house, and finally goes over the property and puts that 12 gauge to her boyfriend's head and says exactly to her boyfriend, you have a choice. You can get back in the car and go home, or you can go to the funeral home. It doesn't really matter, but as you lay another hand on my stepdaughter, your ass is mine. Now, as the boy gets back into his car and begins to pull off, the daughter runs up to the neighbor who she never spoke to or never knew that well and gives him a great hug, because before they even made it to the driveway, she was getting beat on prior to it. And now on that same date, that boyfriend was no longer her boyfriend, and that boyfriend never stepped a foot back onto the property. What does that say, people? Then, as the daughter goes back in the house to tell her family what had just happened right there out in the driveway, the family comes out and they ask for the neighbor to meet them right there at the property line. They are two neighbors, but they don't cross each other's property in any kind of way. But this was the first time that they was going to have a face-to-face meeting with the man with the United States flag, with the Confederate flag, the rebel. Everything that you would think wouldn't be there at the call of duty was there at the time frame the family needed. So as they approach each other at the property line, the black family is very appreciative of the neighbor and thanking him because they don't know what would have happened had he not been there at that time period. And then the white neighbor says exactly, I have watched your daughter and your family grow up next door to me. We haven't said too much to each other, but I don't care whether you're black, white, or Mexican or whatever. I'll be damned if one of our children gets harmed by the evil that's out there. And I'll be damned to watch anybody beat on your daughter in any kind of way, because like I said, I've been watching and making sure if any trouble came that way, because just because I'm on this side of the fence, just because you're on that side of the fence, this is our neighborhood. These are our children. These are our families. And I protect country, I protect family, I protect life with everything I got. And that's because I'm a patriot. So the family is just thankful because their daughter is there and opening her eyes in a home where there's nothing but love and grace. And this other neighbor on the other side, it's just considered a natural act of what anybody should do given the circumstances. So one day the daughter goes back over the property line. She doesn't give a damn about what everybody else has to say because she knows who her neighbor is. That neighbor saved her life. So they sit down and have some sweet tea, and the white neighbor has his beer. And he said, do you know how to defend yourself? Because what I saw could have been prevented. And she said, my family don't believe in guns. My family doesn't have a violent thing in them. He said, there's a difference between violence and stopping crime. There's a difference. So he said, do you want to learn how to defend yourself? And that baby girl said exactly, I don't want whatever happened to me before to ever happen to me again. And he said, I need for you to go back to your family and ask them, do they all want to know how to defend themselves? And she said, why are you helping us? You know, you have the Confederate flag. All I heard is about races, is about people wanting slavery and all this other stuff. And he said, you heard wrong. He said again, you heard it wrong. I love my country just as much as I love you. I said, this is about my family that fought, shed blood, sweat, and tears for this country. Right or wrong, they are my family. I know you may have family, right or wrong, what they may do, but they still your family. You still honor them. You still preserve their history. Don't let nobody else take it away from you, regardless of who you are. So that girl says to him, I thank you again for saving my life. I want to know more about you because you was there when my boyfriend and those who I thought was going to protect me, that looked like me, acted like me, talked like me, but when it came down to it, I was left alone until you showed up. And he said again, I don't want you crying. I don't want you moaning. I don't want you scared again. I don't want you in that situation again. And if you are, because the world is cold. I'm going to make sure that you no longer is scared or in fear. But if there's a situation like this comes across, I want you to blow that son of a bitch head off. So then he walks with the daughter. I'm going to go over and meet your family too, because I got to tell them the same exact thing. So the father and the mother of the daughter comes out. And they're like, what are you doing? You normally don't cross over the property line. I thought you was going to just go about your business because you like to be left alone. And he's like, I respect the fact that you know I like to be left alone. But I said, exactly, I couldn't leave your family alone when the time came. That's the measure of devotion that I have for my God, family, and country. It's about doing the right thing. That's the difference. And if I have to give up a little bit of comfort to make sure exactly that your family is protected, because I gotta send a message throughout this whole entire area that we defend our family with our life. Plain and simple. So he tells the family, he says, your daughter says you don't mess with guns. The daughter says y'all not much about violence. I'm going to tell y'all the same thing. A criminal is a criminal. That's how I look at it. It doesn't matter what race you are. Because if that son of a bitch is in court and he murdered your daughter, do you think you're going to care? Just like I didn't care to blow his damn head off if he tried to put another hand on her. Because she's my daughter too. She's a daughter of America. So, the family and him talk again. He says, I told your daughter, I want her to be trained and ready to defend herself from any enemy, foreign or domestic. But I extend that same olive branch to you. Because you never know when that SOB or anybody else like him is going to come back and try you. And I want to make sure I have some extra guns on this block just in case this situation gets out of control here in America. Now, this conversation happened 15 years ago, to let you know the least. And look at America right now. Now, the family says, first, the father's like, no, I don't want to go with guns and all that other stuff. I just think this is just going to be an isolated incident. It's not going to happen again. Then his wife spoke and said, I want to learn how to defend myself too. Then she looks at her husband and says, I'm going to do exactly what he's asking us to do, because we need to know how to defend ourselves. Because what happened to our daughter happened to me too. And it took police to stop the bad guy. And that bad guy could have took my life. I don't like the idea of guns, but I damn sure don't want to be in that situation again. The husband didn't even know that. That was the first time he found out his wife not only was in an abusive relationship, but not only that, his daughter was in an abusive relationship. Then, after that, the husband said, you know what? I'm going to change my whole mind to this one. I'm going to give it a chance. I'm going to give it a chance to see how this goes. Because I really don't know him that well, but I do know he protected my daughter at a time frame it was needed. So, after that point, they begin to learn how to hold the gun, get trained on the use of a gun, doing target practice. They begin to bond and get to know each other. The conversations was from self-defense to family, from family to their history, to what they agree about and what they disagree about. But the cycle of these neighbors not knowing each other, finding out about each other, bonding, understanding that it means everything for their families to be safe. That says a lot about how quickly people can run and judge people. How people who don't know each other, they socially distant. And then when they come together for a common purpose, they start understanding the reason behind the Second Amendment, the reason about conservative values. Now, I can tell you this. This is exactly what happens really all across America that the media really doesn't report. See, I'm tired of us Republicans. I'm tired of these Democrats and independents that's trying to throw division all over the place and have us judge each other based off of what we believe just because it's counter to them. But then finding out when everything's on the line, what you may believe has been leading you wrong for quite some time. That's because people are caught up in their own pride, in their own prejudice, in their own discrimination, but they feel like long as it doesn't happen to me, but I'm doing it to somebody else, it makes it justified, which it doesn't. Now, right now, we have America on the line. The same thing, America, just like the daughter, just like those who have been held defenseless and vulnerable, who used to think the very method to protect them was being used against them. And then come to find out that on all sides that we have a common purpose. That common purpose is to make sure each and every person has a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Rights in that pursuit has diminished in a matter of a few months, but the plan and strategy has been there for decades. This is the America right now that we live in, that politicians want us to have for the future. And they're underestimating America's fight. They're underestimating that we are ready. We are ready to defend when that moment calls for us to defend. But I don't want us to defend it when it's too late. And we are outnumbered. And those patriots are few and not part of the many. Now, this is what I have to say to all of those that is running for office right now, that are Republicans. All of those who are out there that's undecided. The choice is clear no matter how you look at it. When you take the blinders off and you start looking at people for what they really are. Because we all have made bad decisions with the people that's been around us and guiding us. That's exactly what's going on with these protests and more, where people are not being educated and getting to know exactly what they are protesting and what they are destroying. Now, it's a lot of those who want to label things as terrorists. There's a lot of those who want to say that they are looking for justice because they feel like there is no kind of peace. There's a lot of people that's looking for leadership because leadership failed them, and they were the very monsters that they used to be told was the ones who was there to represent them. Now the ones that's representing them are like the abusive boyfriends that's been attacking Americans from all over. And we have very few now that's willing to put their life on the line, put that sacrifice on the line, just like these two who I mentioned before. to protect another daughter, protect another son. Our times has changed. Now everybody is into self-preservation. They're just trying to live it out an extra day because they don't know when those protests, those filled with anger and more, comes from City Hall to their own neighborhood. And the thing is, when do we take a chance to take a pause to say exactly, is this the country that we worked hard for our families to live in? To live misguided and uninformed. Just like Chesterfield yesterday, and the educational system took a knee and a white flag of surrender to our kids' education. This is happening all over and across America. To keep people blinded, keep our future generations to know whatever we give you is what you're going to get. Not you being able to go out there and fight for it and make sure you take pride in everything that you earned. And every pursuit of happiness is still there, and America is still defending it. See, I'm not blinded to this madness, nor am I underestimating or saying that any side has won. Too many right now are feeling like halftime, which we ain't at. That the game is over. The conclusion is there. We've seen plenty of teams. Look at the Atlanta Falcons in the Super Bowl. Look at all of those teams who had 30-point leads and they should have won the game. But champions rise to the occasion, no matter how far behind they are, or people think they are. They make a comeback and do exactly what America always had believed, that we had the right to pursue happiness. We had the right to win back exactly what they're trying to take from us. And until that clock hits zero, the fight is still on. So I'm telling Republicans all over this country, no matter where you're at, because we had the same issue with Texas and more, that our country will continue to bounce back. But we can't do it with cowards of politicians and those who live in fear and those who buy our elections. That's not America. That's not how we lead. That's exactly what we're dealing with right now. We're dealing with people who have sold out America to the highest bidder. That's where the anger is coming from. And then when it comes down for people to take accountability and responsibility, they are throwing blame instead of saying what they can do for this country, instead of what this country can do for them. See, some people have lost sight of what it takes to keep our constitutional rights. Some people have lost sight because they spend more time worrying about the flesh and going to man. And we know God controls all things, regardless of who you are and where you are at. He decides the outcome. So, as I see people and I walk past those who talk the talk, and right now they're nowhere to be found, while others roam our streets destroying everything that America has built and worked hard for. Now, like I've been told people, this is us against the career politicians. This is us against those who should have been term limited a long time ago, who has absorbed power and now is showing the biggest abuse, whether Democrat or Republican, all across America. Because you don't have to be abusing power. You could be laying down and basically being a coward. That's the same thing as abuse of power, because you're allowing it to happen. If we keep running our elections and we keep using the same strategy we lost for the last 10 years, we will lose Virginia. We will lose Texas. We will lose every stronghold that Republicans even have. Because we're doing the same exact thing, so why do we expect a different result? We see America getting to this point because we've been doing the same thing to allow America to get to this point. See, when people was misinformed for quite some time, thinking government can fix all of our problems, that was wrong. Just like those neighbors couldn't get government to be there in time to fix theirs when it came down to their daughters or their family. They sometimes had to act in place of those who couldn't get there on time, because it was their time to show exactly what they're going to be there for America or what they're going to be there for self. See, for quite some time, we have left America alone because we thought we was good. We have left areas alone because we thought it wasn't working. And we have allowed the anger to stoke and surround us to the point that it's coming directly into our house, into our strongholds, because exactly America is tired of us ignoring American citizens and basically spending our times just catering to lobbyists and special interest groups. We have seen what special interest groups can accomplish. And we see exactly what their purpose is. And it ain't the purpose of what they stand for. The purpose is what they can get out of America and how big of smoke and mirrors that they can go ahead and blind people to the actual truth. Look at these groups. Look at all the problems we have now going on in America. Look at the leadership. When we have mayors blaming presidents for the problems in their city because they don't want to be held accountable. Like I said, it comes a time where people must be held accountable and say exactly, what did you do? What did you do to prevent what's going on here in America? Are we supposed to allow the killing to go on? Are we supposed to allow the lawlessness to go on? Are we supposed to stand idle and watch this country burn and our educational systems collapse and our economy go into the dump where people are now in survival mode? We are releasing criminals that are hardened to the core back onto the streets. And we are seeing our leaders that we used to believe in bowing down and kissing feet to those who could care less about any of our welfare. That's the America we live in, no doubt about it. Because I can say this, the family destruction at its core is going on here in America to the point that we will not know who is family and who is our enemies, because our enemies will be given the same DNA as our families. And we have a chance to prevent that. but we can't fund and give our efforts to our own collapse. An interesting statement was given out earlier today about whether, since somebody can be all on the TVs, all out there, and be a lightning rod, and say exactly this is the only chance we got. We have had plenty of people on TV. We have plenty of people as lightning rods. We have had plenty of people in the news. And we have lost each of those elections. That's the facts, people. And when Texas and other states are now seeing a surge and an uptick that we have never seen before, this is a state of emergency. This is exactly what has been designed around us to take away our freedoms and be too dumb to vote for the same people in prison. Us. So you have a choice when it comes down to November. I have a choice whether I can sit at home or I could decide to be all out there, busting my ass and doing exactly what I have to do for love of country. Because I'm just like that patriot. I care about my family, but I also care about yours. I'm not going to bow down and kneel for anybody. And I need for people to know that you don't have to bow down and kneel for anybody ever. But, like I said, we can live with these results. Or we could take this as a warning sign and an alarm to say it's time for us to change up the playbook. It's time for us to change up the strategy. It's time for us to stop being dumb. Because guess what? The educational system is going to be us, teaching our kids everything that they will learn and get to know. Because the schools ain't going to do it. You don't want the criminals doing it. Because they're getting an education right now. And they doing it with the very same politicians people are funding and voting for. Because you don't have to be a public servant or a senator or a president or a governor to lead. That leadership starts with each and every one of you for a better America. It starts with us at home. It starts with us on how we treat our neighbors. And it will end with us on what we are willing to give up and sacrifice. Because we have a lot of our generations now that are angry and upset because we ain't defending them because of what somebody looks like compared to what we want America to become. A nation of rule and law impacts the safety of all of us. Lawlessness puts all of us in a state of fear, in a state of emergency. We know better than this. We grew up better than this. And for some kind of reason, too many of us are scared to use exactly what we know we should. And that means we need to fight back for this country now more than ever. We need to be informed. When there's an event where those in leadership is asking for you to allow them to be your representative, you need to have your kids there. You need to be there. You need to know exactly the direction of where this country is going to go to. Because we can live life like this, I don't think nobody's satisfied or content. Because we are being played for politics, not for the best interests of this country. So I ask for Virginia, and of course Americans from all over, to now put the accountability not to these government officials and these politicians, but to hold us more accountable for what we decide to give our youth. Because their future will also have to encompass what we did from their past. So I say fight. I say fight for love of country, love of family, love of God, and more. Because that's exactly what these terrorists are fighting against. And I say I'll be damned to do it, and I'll be damned if I allow this to continue to be the new norm. My name is Merle Rutledge, bringing Virginia in a new future, opening back up exactly what has been closed down, giving our youth a future that they think right now is being taken away, and holding these politicians accountable that I have always held accountable. I don't make excuses and blame the governor or Trump for something I can do my damn self. And it's time for us to start saying we are going to get the job done. We the people, not them, the politicians that's failed us. My name is Merle Rutledge, and I'm running for 2021 Governor of Virginia for the Republican nomination. And you have a great day, and I ain't going to quit on America because America doesn't quit on us.